Right, right, Sandy. And now I've upped the ante with the pictures and the music and everything. So honestly, the best experience is on TikTok. Hey, Karen. This was my plan all along. I just had to figure out how to do it. 1 minute. Hey, Melanie. Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully y'all can see a little bit of me, but I really want you to focus on the pictures tonight because there was going to be many of them. We'll get through this story. Tonight is going to be a long reading. Hello, Justine. Hey, Pink. How are you? Hello, Wendy. You got your tissue boxes handy? Can you believe that we came to the end of this story? Oh, nice. Hello, Citrine. Hello, Carol. Just for Twisted Tales Live. On Twisted Tales Live, I am dark. My little friend. Aww. Welcome to Twisted Tales Live. I am your host, Bryn Morgan. I'm also a horror author. And this is one of the hardest things for me as an author. It's kind of bittersweet. There's a sense of joy, but there's also a sense of sadness. Tonight is the conclusion of Cherry Hill. When I look back on it, when I first started this, I had no idea that it was going to take me on the journey that it did. But what a journey. I showed some of the pictures at the beginning just to take you from where we started. Maggie Drake came to Cherry Hill as a woman that was broken and destroyed, had many things taken from her that just continued to beat her down and beat her down and beat her down until she finally arrived in Cherry Hill because she found out that she was adopted and that her birth mother was from Cherry Hill. She thought it was just going to be normal. She had no idea that she came from a long line of witches, very powerful witches. She had no idea that when she arrived in Cherry Hill, this picturesque town in the highlands of North Carolina, that she was walking into an ancient, evil place where children were being taken. Now is the conclusion of Cherry Hill. But first, we have a way of how we do things here. Are you ready? Lower your lights. Lock your doors. Light a candle for ambiance, or to chase those shadows away. Pull your curtains nice and tight. Wrap yourself in your warmest blanket to avoid the chills that are about to crawl up your spine. And let's begin. Can everyone hear the music? Let's set the scene. Perfect. Maggie woke to thunder. Not the distant rumble of a storm rolling in, but the bone-deep crashing of lightning striking close. So close that the cabin shook. Her eyes flew open, and for a moment, for just a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. It was not her bedroom at Cherry Hill House. It was not the cabin in Tennessee. She looked around her. She was in Graham's room, laying on the bed. The lightning was lighting up the room. Why was she here? Why was she in Graham's cabin? Oh yes, it started coming back to her. the diner, the conversation with Graham and Inez, telling her that, making her seem like she was insane, like she was losing her mind, telling her that there was no sheriff, that there was no girl that worked at the diner named Kat, that there were no women that lived down below her, that she was the only one that lived in Cherry Hill House. There were no sisters. Was she going insane? Was this all something that she had concocted? Another crack of thunder, and the entire cabin lit up in stark white light. Maggie bolted upright in bed, Graham's bed, and looked around wildly. "Hello?" she called out. She remembered when she was drifting off to sleep, hearing Graham and Inez talking. But it was quiet now, and she was alone, completely alone. She got out of the bed. Her feet hit the floor. She looked around. She went to the bedroom door and opened it. "Hello? Graham? Inez? Hello?" She wandered down the hall into the open living area, and there was no one there. The cabin was dark, except for the intermittent flashes of lightning. It turned everything into harsh, dark shadows and blinding light. Rain hammered against the windows with violent intensity. The wind screamed around the corners of the cabin like something alive, something haunting. "Inez? Graham?" she called out, her voice thin and frightened, but there was no answer, just the storm. "Graham!" Panic filled her voice. Where was the dog? Where was Connor? "Inez?" And then she hollered out Inez's name again as she opened up the front door and looked outside. She knew that she was not imagining it. Graham and Inez had brought her to the cabin. Where were they now? "Inez!" Her voice was louder this time, panic creeping into her tone. But there was nothing. The wind and the rain beat in sheets against her. She went back inside. "Graham? Inez?" She had never felt so completely and utterly alone. The cabin remained silent, except for the storm. Maggie ran back into the house. She went to Graham's room. She started searching every drawer, every cabinet, looking for one thing in particular. A signet ring a signet ring that would match the vines and the signet on her chest. But she found nothing. She searched the bathroom cabinets, every drawer in the house. There was nothing. And then toward the back of the underwear drawer was a box with a seagull on it. That didn't mean anything, she thought. She wanted to believe with all of her heart that Graham was not involved in this, that he was not working for the Nofrithulter. She took the box and placed it on top of the dresser and opened it. It was lined with green velvet. There was a pair of cufflinks, silver, with his initials. But that was it. Nothing else. That was a good thing, right? That was a good sign. About that time, another flash of lightning lit up the inside of the cabin. Maggie looked on the counter and saw keys, the keys to her Bronco. She reached down and grabbed them and ran outside. The rain pelted hard, soaking her within minutes. The pajamas were a soaking wet mess. She unlocked the Ranger and stepped inside the warm interior. She cranked the Bronco. She put it in reverse and backed out. Where was she supposed to go now? What was she supposed to do? Graham and Inez were nowhere to be found. What if something had taken them both? What if Graham was being held captive? God forbid, what if Inez was in trouble? She raced down the roads back to Cherry Hill House. She drove up the steep driveway, and when she arrived at the house, it was dark. The lightning came from the Black Pass. The thunder rolled and rumbled. Maggie jumped out of the Bronco and made her way across the soaking wet yard, up the steps to the front door. And what was so strange was that she was not met by her cat, by Dune. The house was empty. Maggie went inside. The staircase was concealed in darkness. Inez? Inez, are you here? This is a cruel joke that you're playing. Inez, please, say something. But there was nothing. She went upstairs, 2 steps at a time, went to the apocryphy room and searched downstairs. There was nothing. Graham? Graham, please. Are you here? Is anyone here? Nothing. She searched and searched, but there was nothing, no one in the house, not even Dune. Where was he? She could hear the rain coming down on the roof. She could hear the wind. She looked up with tears in her eyes. Inez? It was Samhain, the night that the witches, it had been foretold that they would come for her. And suddenly Maggie was filled with a tremendous fear, a fear that she could not explain. She shook, because over the rain and over the wind, as she started ascending the stairs, she heard it. She froze. Hello? She turned and walked back down the stairs. She knew in her gut something was very wrong. She walked back down the small hallway to the front of the house, to the parlor room. Her breath was heavy, her chest, her heart pounding. The sky sounded as if it was breaking apart above her. Maggie's breath came in short, panicked gasps. This wasn't right. This couldn't be right. Another flash of lightning. Then she heard it again. Loud. In her mind, they were coming for her. She pressed her hand to her forehead and listened. The rain picked up. Then she heard it again. Laughter. It had started out faint, but it was building in intensity, distant but unmistakable. Female voices, multiple voices, laughing with a sound that was not joy, but something darker. Something wrong. Maggie's blood turned to ice as she sat on the sofa. Maggie. Maggie. We're coming for you. She stood on shaking legs and moved to the window and looked toward the black pass. She saw the lightning flashing, heard the thunder roll and shake the ground beneath her, but no signs of the witches. But their laughter was unmistakable. Maggie. Maggie! Her hand reached for the heavy curtain and dropped it. She sat back down. And then her heart stopped. Maggie. Maggie. She pulled back the curtain again and looked out. And across the black pass, she saw them. Flying slowly, deliberately toward her. One with flowing raven hair, one with the bright red hair of her own, and one blonde. They had terrible expressions on their faces as they neared the farmhouse. Coming across the ridge, 3 figures flying in black. Their robes billowing behind them like black wings. Their hair streaming in the wind. Their laughter maniacal. The one with hair as black as midnight flew to the front. She was the leader. The one with the hair red as blood behind her. And the one with the pale blonde of the moonlight covered the rear. They were moving toward Cherry Hill House, toward her. Maggie dropped the curtain. "No," she breathed. "No, no, 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 no." But they kept coming closer and closer until Maggie could see them clearly. Tall, impossibly graceful, their robes made of shadow that shifted and moved like living darkness around them. They circled the house once, peeking in the windows. "Maggie!" And then a voice, not one voice, all 3 together speaking in unison, speaking directly into Maggie. "Come out to us, Maggie Drake." Maggie pressed herself against the wall, her whole body shaking, hoping that she could conceal herself. The shadow magic. She could do that. She could make that work. But she trembled. She couldn't even recall how to do it. And Chloe had made it look so easy. But now, with them approaching, it all left her mind. What was it that she did? What was it that she said? "Go away!" "Go away," she says. "Go away." "Maggie, we have come for you, and we're not leaving without you. Come out to us, or we come in to get you." Thunder crashed. The house shook. And Maggie knew, absolutely knew, that they would do it. Would tear through the walls if they had to. Would drag her out, kicking and screaming, if that's what it took. Face them, Maggie. They will come for you. She could hear Aita speaking to her. And when they come, you better be ready. But she wasn't. She couldn't recall a single spell. Nothing. "You have to face them, Maggie Drake." She did. She had to face them. Had to go out there Maggie took a deep breath. It felt as if she was swallowing glass. Come out to us, Maggie, or we come into you. Your choice. Your choice. Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. It doesn't have to be like this. The raven-haired one moved closer. One chance, Maggie Drake. Come out and face us. Maggie took a breath, and then another. And then she walked across the foyer and opened the front door and stepped out onto the porch. The storm hit her immediately, a blast of the wind and the rain and the cold. The witches shrouded in mist. But Maggie barely felt it because there they were. 3 witches hovering 10 feet above the ground in front of Cherry Hill House, looking menacing and threatening. The one with black hair in the center, clearly the leader, was now wearing a cloak over her head. Her face was pale as bone, her eyes dark and empty. The one with the red hair on her left was younger looking, with a cruel smile. She too had covered her head. The one with the blonde hair on her right, the oldest, her face weathered but beautiful in a terrified way. All 3 staring at Maggie with expressions of triumph. Leave. Maggie managed, her voice shaking so badly she could barely get the word out. Get away from my house. Leave me alone. The 3 witches laughed again. Leave. The black-haired witch said, her voice like wind through a graveyard. Oh no, little bride. We are here to collect you. An errand for the Nefrith Julter, to take you to him, to take you to your destiny. No, Maggie said. No, I won't. Won't? The redhead witch lifted her head. Do you think you have a choice, Maggie Drake? Why? Maggie's voice broke. Why me? Why me? The black-haired witch smiled, revealing teeth that were too sharp. You know why. Because of your mother, Aileen McLeod. She gave you her power, and that is why he wants you. Don't think it has anything to do for love. You're a weapon. I'm done talking. Come with us now. Maggie tried again. The shadow magic. To become invisible. To disappear. But the words still would not come to her. You carry his bond. You are his. We will not fail in our task to bring you to him tonight. On Samhain. The black-headed witch descended slowly until she was eye level with Maggie, just beyond the porch railing. Shall we take you ourselves, Maggie? drag you screaming to his altar? 'Cause we will, if we must. Her smile widened. Or will you rise on your own? Oh, we know it. We know you can fly. You're just as powerful as we are. Maggie looked at them. We know you have the ability now. We know that you can fly. But I have no objection to grabbing you by your hair and bringing you myself. You know nothing about me, Maggie spat back, trying to sound brave, but hearing only fear in her voice. The three witches laughed again. Nothing, the black-haired witch said, clapping her hands together. Oh, really? She leaned closer. We know everything about you. We've been watching you. All these days, Maggie Drake. We've been studying you. We know everything about you, your fears, your loves, your weaknesses, as does he. We know the power that you hold. We saw you in training with those pathetic light ones. They are nothing to our power. The red-headed witch added, the training that you received, the gifts that you were given, we will teach you so much more. Impossible, Maggie said. I've only seen you once. It was in Chloe's store in town. That's the only time. Only at the store, she says. The black-haired witch's smile turned vicious. Only once. And then, right before Maggie's eyes, she began to shapeshift. The witch's form began to shift. The black robes melted away, replaced by a tan uniform. The face filled out, gained color, became familiar. Wyatt? The sheriff. The long black hair shortened. The blue eyes were intense. Sheriff Wyatt stood hovering where the witch had been. Howdy, ma'am, the sheriff said in his southern drawl, tipping a black Stetson hat. Welcome to Cherry Hill. Hope you're settling in all right. The two witches behind her laughing, Maggie's face a picture of horror. What? Maggie's legs nearly gave out. No, she whispered. No, you're not. The sheriff laughed, and it was wrong then. Too layered, too old, and then shifted back to the witch's form. Oh, but I was, she said in a fake southern drawl. The southern replaced again with the Scottish. For weeks, every conversation, every morning, every friendly smile, it was me. The red-headed witch descended now, her form already shifting midair, black robes becoming jeans and a t-shirt, face becoming younger, blonde hair pulled back into a ponytail, freckles appearing on a teenage nose. It was Kat, the girl at the diner, who had wanted her to take Dune. The 16-year-old Remember me? Cat's voice said, but wrong. Such a sweet kitty cat. Perfect for a new home. Perfect for you, Maggie Drake. The figure giggled, and it was the teenage girl and the ancient witch. Then she shifted back into form. The blood witch descended last, her form changing, becoming an elderly woman with bright red curls in a floral dress. Well, hello there, Maggie Drake. Did you like the croissants that I brought you? Maggie's face was one of absolute terror. All these people that she thought were befriending her, that were talking to her, had been the witches all along. The black-haired witch shifted again, becoming the sheriff. I think you might want to go with them. It's time for you to meet him. We've been here since the beginning, Maggie Drake, the black-haired witch said, settling back into her true form, watching, studying, preparing you for this moment. All three of them descended, landing on the porch, surrounding Maggie. So, the black-haired witch said, will you come willingly, or do we take you? Maggie couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't think. Everything that she'd learned, all the training, all the power, all the gifts, gone, replaced by fear, wiped away by pure terror of the witches in front of her. She was just Maggie again, broken, scared, hopeless. I see, the witch said, reaching one pale hand toward Maggie's hair. You're coming for us. You're coming with us. We'll take you. You might not like the results so much. And then she heard a voice inside her head. Ground yourself, Maggie. Ground yourself. It was Ayita. Feel the earth beneath your feet. Feel it now. Then she heard Morgana's voice. You're stronger than you know. Then she heard Nacha's voice. Then she heard Nacha's voice. Pain is power. Use it. Then she heard Morgana's voice again. The sky is yours, Maggie. No one can take that from you. Remember what we taught you. Remember your power. And then she heard Agatha's voice. Your power is in your ability to choose, Maggie Drake. Then she heard Billy's voice. They will do everything to break you. They will do everything to make you forget everything that we taught you. Don't let them win. She could hear it, the voices of everyone who had trained her, as if they were coming to her aid, who had believed in her, who had given her gifts and wisdom and strength, all of them echoing in her mind, reminding her of what she had. You are not helpless, Chloe said. You're not broken. You're Maggie Drake. Act like it. Maggie's eyes snapped up to meet the black-haired witch's gaze, and she could feel the power beginning to glow within herself. The words were coming back, the chants. No, Maggie said, her voice steady now and strong. The witch paused, her hand still extended. No, she repeated. I will fly there myself, Maggie said, and with each word she felt more certain, more herself, on my own terms. She stepped forward and the witches actually stepped back and took flight. You have tried to break me, Maggie continued, power crackling around her hands now. You've watched me, studied me, tried to terrify me into submission. If you truly have watched me, then you know what I am now. She looked at each witch in turn. But I'm not a broken woman. I'm Maggie Drake. I am light and dark. I am all of it. And I will go on my own. The marks on her chest blazed brighter. The signet seal, the gray veins, all glowing silver through the wet shirt. I'm choosing to face him of my own free will. Nothing that you have done. Not because you're taking me, but because I'm walking into that darkness to end this. For the first time, the witch's smiles faltered. Brave words, the black-haired witch said. But you don't know what you're walking into, Maggie. Or should I say, Kenna. I'll take my chances, Maggie said. We'll see. We'll just see how brave you are when you're standing at his altar. When you hear the cries of the children. When you feel the full weight of his power. When he offers you everything. I'm ready. Take me there. And without waiting for them, without permission or invitation, Maggie reached for the power that Agatha had unlocked in her. The wind that lived in her bones. And she rose into the air. The three witches stared for a moment, clearly not expecting this. And then they rose too, following her. So be it, Maggie Drake. He waits. The black-haired witch said, fly to your destiny, but remember when you cross into the realm, there's no turning back. I'm not turning back, Maggie said. I am going to finish it. I am going to finish him, and I am going to finish you. Then lead the way. The storm raged around them. Lightning split the sky, thunder shook the mountains, and 4 figures flew through it. 3 witches in black, and 1 more glowing with silver light. Headed toward the Black Pass, toward the altar, toward him. Maggie's heart pounded, but it wasn't just fear anymore. It was determination and anger. She knew that he had Inez. She knew it in her heart. She could feel it. And perhaps even had Graham. There was this fierce certainty that she was done being afraid, done being manipulated, done being his plaything. She was going to face the Nefrith Choltir tonight on Samhain. And either she would save those children and free herself and Inez, or she would die trying. But she would do it as Maggie Drake. The Black Pass opened before them like a wound in the north, and Maggie flew straight toward it. The rain fell around her, the storm raged, lightning split the sky, and Maggie Drake flew toward the Black Pass, toward the altar, toward the Nefrith Choltir, not as a victim, not as prey, but as a woman who had chose this path, who would face him on her own terms, who would either save the children and free herself, or die as herself rather than live as his possession. The witches flew faster, and Maggie matched that pace. The mountains loomed ahead and foreboding, and somewhere in those mountains, he waited. In the Black Pass, the Nefrith Choltir felt her coming to him, felt her flying toward him, and felt something unexpected. She wasn't broken. She was angry, determined, dangerous. He smiled, but it was no longer certain. Come then, Canon McLeod. He whispered, come and let us see which of us is stronger, lass. Your defiance or my eternity. They flew through the storm, 4 figures silhouetted against the gray sky, 3 witches in black robes, and 1 woman in black, power glowing around her like a silver halo, flying toward destiny, flying toward choice, flying toward the moment when everything would be decided. The Black Pass opened before them like a wound in the earth, dark, ancient, hungry, and Maggie flew straight into it, into darkness, into the unknown, into the place where children screamed and a powerful God waited. The witches led her deeper, descending into a ravine so narrow the walls seemed to press in from both sides. No light reached here, just shadow and stone and the echo of centuries of suffering. And then light, flickering, orange, like torches. The ravine opened into a massive cavern, and Maggie, her breath caught. It was beautiful and terrible all at once. Stone formations reached from the tower toward the ceiling, lost in darkness. A dark pool of water perfectly still, reflecting the torchlight. And at the far end, an altar. Massive, made of black stone, carved with symbols that hurt to look at. I'm going to try to move aside so you can see. And standing before it was a figure cloaked in black. He was tall, impossibly tall. His form shifted between solid and shadow, never quite one or the other. He wore robes of deepest black that moved like living darkness. His face, Maggie couldn't quite see his face. It was there and not there, behind, beautiful and terrible, human and divine. But his eyes were fixed upon her as he looked. Silver, glowing, ancient. And when he smiled, his voice filled the cavern. Welcome, Kenna McLeod. His voice rolled through the cavern like thunder. Welcome home. The three witches landed on either side of the altar, bowing to their master. And Maggie landed in the center of the cavern, 10 feet from the altar facing him, alone, but not afraid. Not anymore. I'm here, she hollered down. Her voice was echoing. Let's finish this! Then Afreeth Choltair's smile widened. Oh, Kenna. We're just beginning, my dear. The storm above had The storm above faded as the walls closed in, replaced by an oppressive darkness that was more than just absence of light. This was darkness with weight, with presence, with hunger, and then light. Maggie's breath stopped. Because at the center of it all was a massive bonfire. The flames were high. It was not a small fire, not a campfire, even a large ceremonial fire, as it had been in Tennessee. It was a bonfire that reached toward the heavens like a tower of flame, easily 30 feet high or more. The flames danced and writhed like living things, casting wild shadows across the cavern walls. The heat radiating from it was immense and immense. Maggie could feel it even from here, hundreds of feet above, and around the bonfire were witches. Hundreds of them. All in black robes that seemed to be made of shadow itself. All standing in concentric circles around the fire. All facing inward. All chanting. The sound was like nothing that Maggie had ever heard. It wasn't singing, wasn't speaking. It was something older, something Gaelic, something that resonated in her bones and made her teeth ache. The words were in a language she didn't recognize, harsh and guttural sounds that seemed to come from deep in the earth itself. Donesh Mogath Kelvarn. Shormeth Narkesh Voldara. Kashnesh Tinmoth Kasara. Over and over, the same phrase repeating, building in intensity. The three witches who had brought Maggie descended toward the bonfire, and as they did, the chanting grew louder. Maggie tried to maintain her flight, tried to stay in control, but something was wrong. She could feel it. A pull. Not physical, not her body being moved, but something deeper. Her will was slipping. Her sense of self was loosening, like invisible hands were reaching into her mind, her spirit, pulling her apart. No, Maggie whispered, trying to fight it. No, I'm in control. I choose this. But the pull only intensified. The three witches landed at the edge of the circle, taking their places among the others. And Maggie couldn't stop herself. She drifted forward toward the bonfire, toward those impossibly high flames. No! Maggie screamed, trying to pull back, trying to fly away. I said that I would come willingly. I said on my own terms, she screamed down. But it didn't matter. Whatever force controlled this place, whatever power the Nefertiti wreaked and wielded, it was stronger than her will, stronger than her training, stronger than anything she'd learned. She floated inexorably forward, over the heads of the chanting witches, toward the flames. The chanting grew louder, faster, more intense. Dhanesh Morgath Kelvera, which stood for, she comes to the sacred fire. Shorneth Nakesh Vuldara, the blood calls to the ancient darkness. Kadresh Tinmoth Karsara, the bond will be completed in flame. Maggie reached the edge of the bonfire and rose higher, pulled upward by that invisible force until she was floating directly above the center of the flames. The heat was incredible, not burning, not yet, but so intense that she could barely breathe. The flames reached up toward her, licking at her feet, her legs as if trying to pull down into their embrace. She tried to move her arms, and she couldn't. She tried to move her legs. She couldn't. She was paralyzed, suspended in the air above the bonfire, like a puppet on invisible strings. Completely helpless. Let me go! Maggie screamed. Her voice was lost in the roar of the flames and the chanting of the witches. The witches' voices rose higher, louder, the words coming faster now, tumbling over each other in a cascading wave of dark power. Kalmor Shandeth Valkala, purify the vessel in holy fire. Morket Shalvin Karthala, break the human, birth the goddess. Volmesh Karsher Dalvala, the old one, claims her. The flames surged upward, engulfing Maggie completely. She screamed, but the fire didn't burn, didn't consume. Instead, it began to change her more. She could feel it, feel something being stripped away, peeled off, old skin. Her humanity, her doubts, her fears, all of it being burned away in the sacred flames. No! Maggie fought against it with everything she had, reached for the power that she had been given, the gifts, the training, but they felt distant, muted, like trying to grasp smoke. The chanting reached a fever pitch, all 100 voices screaming the words now. Kena Balmora Shaketh. Kena rises from the fire. Kena Balmora Shaketh. Kena rises from the fire. Kena Balmora Shaketh. Kenna rises from the fire, and then the flames dropped. Suddenly. Completely. And she began to descend, going from 30 feet high to 10 feet in an instant. And Maggie was pulled forward, out of the flames, floating horizontally now like she was lying on an invisible table. She drifted past the bonfire, over the heads of the still chanting witches, toward the far end of the cavern. And that's when she saw it. The altar. Massive, made of black stone, carved with more of those terrific symbols, and at its center, chained, a figure, spread eagle across the stone surface. A woman. Maggie! The scream cut through everything, through the chanting, through Maggie's terror, through the roar of the bonfire. Maggie! It was Inez. Inez was chained to the altar. Her wrists and ankles bound with iron shackles, her clothes torn and bloodied, blood on her face, terror in her dark eyes. Inez! Maggie screamed back. Inez, no, no, no! She tried to move toward her friend, tried to break free of whatever force held her, but she couldn't. Could only drift closer, helpless. Inez struggled against her chains. Maggie, run! Inez was sobbing now. Get out of here! Fly away! Don't let him! But Maggie couldn't run. She couldn't fly away. Could only float inexorably toward as the cavern revealed more of its horrors. Because beyond the altar, there they were. The children. Hundreds of them. Chained to the cavern walls, shackled to the stone floor, bound with iron and shadow magic. Children from across the centuries. Some in modern clothes, some in garments so old they were barely more than rags. All of them with eyes that glowed faintly in the darkness. All of them silent. All of them staring at Maggie with expressions of desperate hope, mixed with terrible resignation. Oh God, Maggie whispered. Oh God, there are so many. Just as in her dream. And then, movement. From the deepest darkness at the back of the cavern, where no firelight reached, where shadow was absolute, something emerged. A figure. Tall. Impossibly tall. At least 7 feet. Maybe more. Wrapped in a black robe that seemed to be made of living darkness. It moved around him. Like smoke, never quite solid, constantly shifting and flowing. His form beneath the robe was hard to see, human-shaped. Broad shoulders, and his face. His face was concealed beneath a deep hood that cast his features into shadow, but Maggie could see his eyes. 2 orbs of glowing green, not reflecting light, generating it, stirring out from beneath that hood like twin flames. Ancient eyes, hungry eyes, eyes that had seen centuries pass, that had watched kingdoms rise and fall, that had taken children and devoured innocence and grown fat on suffering. The Nefrith Cholter, the unseen hunter, the god of the Black Pass, and he was looking at Maggie. He moved forward slowly, each step deliberate, and Maggie could hear something beneath the footsteps, like wind through dead leaves, like whispers in an empty room, like the last breath of dying things. The witches chanting it stopped. The bonfire still burned, but quiet now, waiting, and the witches bowed. Everything was waiting for him. He reached the altar where Inez lay, chained, and stopped. One hand, the only part of him visible beneath those terrible eyes, reaching out and stroked her hair. Inez whimpered and tried to pull away, but the chains held her. "Let her go," Maggie said, her voice shaking. "Please. She has nothing to do with this. Let her go." The figure's head tilted and Maggie heard it. Laughter. Soft, low, coming from beneath the hood. Not cruel laughter, not mocking, but worse. Amused laughter. Like Maggie had said something naive. "Let her go." The voice that emerged from the hood was like nothing Maggie had ever heard. It wasn't one voice, it was many, layered, male and female and something else entirely, old and young, human and divine, speaking in perfect unison. Why would I do that? Can I? She's leverage. She is motivation. She is the reason you will choose wisely when I make my offer. Those green orbs turned toward Maggie fully, and she felt the weight of its gaze like a physical thing, like being pressed down into the earth, like drowning in black water, like being consumed. Can I? Welcome, he said, and his voice resonated through the entire cavern, though Maggie's bones felt it. Welcome home. Maggie tried to struggle, tried to move, tried to call on any of the powers she'd been given, but she remained paralyzed, suspended in the air, helpless before him. And then those terrible green eyes, those ancient, hungry, amused eyes, stared at her from beneath that concealing hood, waiting, watching, enjoying her fear. The black past had claimed her. The god had his bride before his altar. The children watched. Inez screamed, and Maggie Drake hung suspended in the air, completely at his mercy. And the night was just beginning. Let's take an intermission. 10 minutes. And when we come back, we will continue. We will continue. Cherry Hill. Oh, hey, Magic Moon. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Emma Bama. Oh, so glad that you like them. Hey, Turtle Woman. Oh, so glad you like it. It is. That was the dream making the scratching sound. Always making her presence known. Angela, thank you for the follow. Thank you for the presents. Thank you for being here for the last night of Cherry Hill. If I missed anyone, I do apologize. Hey, Jim Rocks. Hello, Julia Wagner. Thank you so much for the repost, for the tapping. Thank you, thank you. Three minutes. Maybe I can bring it up higher on the pole. A bit better. Still want it higher though. Isn't she? Maggie Drake. Oh, thank you, Melanie. Thank you. We can start early. I love it. She is beautiful. Very. Is everybody ready for the second part? Let me know in the comments. Then let's begin. Maggie hung suspended in the air, paralyzed, staring at the hooded figure before her. Below, Inez struggled against her chains, sobbing. Behind, the bonfire crackled and burned. All around, hundreds of children watched, and before her, him. Please, Maggie said, her voice breaking. Please let her go. Inez has nothing to do with this. She's innocent. Just let her go and I'll come to you willingly. I'll do whatever you want. Just please. In the back of her mind, a desperate plan formed. If she could get Inez free, if she could get her out, then maybe she could use her power. Maybe she could fight. Maybe she could escape. The figure tilted his head, and even though Maggie couldn't see his face, she felt him studying her, knowing her thoughts, reading her mind. Very well. His layered voice echoed. A bargain. Her freedom for your willing submission. He raised one hand. Click. The shackle on Inez's left ankle released. Inez gasped, her legs suddenly free. No, Inez said hoarsely. No, Maggie, don't! Another gesture. Playing. The right ankle shackle opened. Both of Inez's legs were free. Only her wrist remained chained to the altar. There, he said, half freed. A gesture of good faith on my part, Kenna. He took a step closer to where Maggie hung suspended. Now you. Come closer to me. Let me see you properly. The invisible force moved Maggie forward through the air until she was directly in front of him. Close enough to feel the cold radiating from his form. Close enough to see his hands. Close enough to... Hello, lass. The voice changed. Not the ancient layered echo. A different voice. Warm. Familiar. Concerned, even. She began to shake. The hood was slowly lowered. You look surprised, lass. No. Maggie whispered. No, you're not. But her heart stopped. Because it was Graham Sinclair. Exactly, Graham. Not a twisted version, not a monster wearing his face. Graham Sinclair. Those brilliant blue eyes, not glowing green, but the same warm blue that she'd looked into dozens of times. The salt and pepper hair she'd ran her fingers through in moments of passion. The strong jawline, the slight smile lines around his eyes, the small scar above his left eyebrow. Everything, every detail. Graham. Hello, Maggie. He said again in his voice, just his voice, no layering, no echo. And then images flooded through Maggie's mind. Not her memories, his memories, shown to her deliberately. The law office, Angus Sinclair's office, Graham walking in with his uncle and seeing Maggie for the first time. Across the room, their eyes meeting, that slow smile spreading across his face. This is my nephew, Graham, Angus said. He just moved to Cherry Hill recently, too. I thought you two should meet. Graham, as his eyes traveled over her, as he went to Cherry Hill House for the first time. That easy charm. The first kiss. His hands cupping her face, his mouth on hers, as he backed her toward the window in his cabin. The way she melted into him, making love. The firelight, his hands on her body, his voice in her ear saying her name. He had called her Kenna. And then when she questioned him about it, he acted like he knew nothing about it. He knew it all along. The black veil, the waterfall, the bathroom, her legs wrapped around its waist as he took her there. Had any of it been genuine? The paralysis released at that moment and Maggie fell. Hit the stone floor hard, her knees buckling, her whole body collapsing like a puppet with cut strings. All of her energy, all of her strength, all of her fight, gone. Just gone. She couldn't speak, couldn't move, could only stare up at Graham, at the man that she trusted, confided in, let herself care about, slept with, standing there in black robes in the black pass, surrounded by his witches and his bonfire and his altar. No, 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 no. Oh, yes, 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 yes. The Nefrith Chulter. He'd been the Nefrith Chulter all along. Graham knelt down beside her, bringing her face level with his. Those blue eyes, those beautiful blue eyes, looked at her with something that might have passed for tenderness or might have been mockery. She couldn't tell anymore. You, she managed, the word barely a whisper. You. She couldn't finish, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Just absolute horror washing over her in waves. No, she finally choked out. No, not you, not you. Graham tilted his head, that familiar gesture he'd done 100 times before. Not me. His voice was so gentle, so kind, the same voice that had comforted her, but it had always comforted her. Now it was a lie. It's always been me, Maggie. From the very beginning. No, Maggie said again, tears streaming down her face now. You wouldn't. The children. You wouldn't do that to the children. You couldn't. Couldn't I? Graham reached out and stretched her face with his hand, his warm, real hand. Did you really think it was all a coincidence, Maggie? That I just happened to show up? That I just happened to show interest in you, lass? That just happened to be there? His thumb wiped away one of her tears. He licked it away. The cabin. The comfort. The passion. That was my favorite part, you know. Watching you trust me. Slowly opening yourself to me. It wasn't real. None of it was real. No, he agreed softly. But you caught it, didn't you, lass? That little slip I made when we were in bed together. He leaned closer, his lips nearly brushing her ear when I said your name. Kenna. I watched you from the window in the bathroom at night. Maggie's breath stopped. She remembered. God, she remembered everything. He'd called her Kenna in that moment of passion, and she thought she'd convinced herself with just a slip of the tongue that that was all it was, that he was confusing her with who? Why, Graham? Why? I wanted to be close to you. Graham continued, pulling back, looking at her face. I wanted to taste your trust when you gave it so very freely. Every moment. Images flashed through Maggie's mind again. His hand on hers across the table at the diner. His arms around her when she cried. His kiss, his touch. His body against hers in the cabin, every touch. His fingers in her hair, his hands on her waist, his mouth on her neck, every kiss. Every dream was him. All of it playing in her mind like a movie. All of it feeling real. All of it making her heart ache. All of it a lie. Graham's face was inches from hers now, his blue eyes looking directly into hers. It's quite simple, Kenna. You choose me. That's it. Choose to be mine. Willingly, with your whole heart. And I'll let her go. He gestured to Inez, still chained to the altar, still crying. And Maggie asked, her voice breaking, and release the children. His face was so close now, his lips nearly touching hers. They were both on the ground, Graham kneeling in front of her. Maggie collapsed, broken and devastated. Say yes, Maggie. Say yes. and her torture is over. He said softly, all you have to do is say yes. Maggie felt movement around her then. The witches were closing in, especially the one with the black hair, the leader. They formed a circle around Maggie and Graham, their black robes creating walls of shadow, trapping her, containing her. And you'll let the children go? Maggie asked, her voice breaking. You'll let Inez go? And the children? Graham, the Nofrith Choltaire stood up, slowly, deliberately, rising to his full height, looking down at Maggie, still kneeling on the ground. And he laughed. Not the soft, amused laugh from before. This was different. Dark, seductive, dangerous. A laugh that sent ice through Maggie's veins. Oh, Maggie. Maggie, Maggie, Maggie. He said, and his voice, Graham's voice, dripping with cruel amusement. You can't have everything you want, lass. He took a step back, spreading his arms wide. It's simple. Either the children or her. Maggie froze. Her breath stopped. What? You heard me? He tilted, his head, those blue eyes glinting in the firelight. You have to choose. The children. He gestured to hundreds of glowing-eyed children chained to the cavern walls. Or your friend. He pointed to Inez on the altar. You can't have it all, Maggie lass. So make your choice. No, Maggie breathed. No, you said if I came to you willingly. I said I would release them. He interrupted, his smile widening, and I will. But you have to choose which I release. The children you've been so desperately wanting to save. Or the friend. The air in the cavern seemed to thicken. The bonfire roared higher. The witches pressed closer, their black robes rustling. And out of nowhere, a dagger materialized in the air between Maggie and Graham. It hung there, suspended by invisible force, slowly rotating so that Maggie could see every detail of it. It was ancient, older than anything that Maggie had ever seen. The blade was black metal, obsidian, maybe, or something darker, and the handle was carved with symbols that glowed with a faint red light. Runes, ancient runes pulsing like a heartbeat. Graham reached out and plucked the dagger from the air, examining it almost lovingly before looking back at Maggie. I know you, Maggie Drake. I know your choice that you will make. You have the heart of a mother. You know what your choice is. He held out the dagger, handle first, offering it to Maggie. Make your choice. Maggie stared at the dagger, her whole body shaking. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be the choice. I can't. Her voice broke completely. Please, Please don't make me do this. Choose, he said, his voice still Graham's, but with an undercurrent of something else. The children or her? He pointed the dagger toward the walls where hundreds of small forms watched with glowing eyes. Your choice, Maggie. He turned his finger toward his own throat and drew it slowly across in a slashing motion. Maggie's vision blurred with tears. Maggie! Inez's voice cut through everything. Maggie looked at her friend on the altar, legs now free but wrists still chained, holding her down. There's no choice here! Choose the children! Inez shouted, and she was crying too. Maggie, please choose the children! Let them go! Inez! They're children, Maggie! They've been here for years, decades, centuries. They deserve to go home. They deserve... Her voice broke. Choose them, please. Let me go. It's okay. I'm okay with it. Just save the children. I can't, Maggie sobbed. I can't lose you. I can't. You have to, Inez said, and there was such certainty in her voice, such peace. This is why you came here. This is what you were always meant to do, to save them. Please. I'll feel like I didn't lose my life for nothing. Maggie looked between Inez and the children and Graham holding the glowing dagger. The witches were closing in tighter now. She could feel them, could feel the black-robed witch, the leader with the black hair, so close that her robe was actually touching Maggie's back. Surrounding her, containing her, waiting for her choice. Graham's smile widened. He stepped forward and held out the dagger again. What will you choose, Kenna? His voice shifted, gained that slight Scottish brogue, ancient and beautiful and terrible. You heard her. She's dying for an honorable cause, lass. Your friend's life, or the freedom of hundreds of innocent children. Maggie reached out with a shaking hand, took the dagger. The handle was warm like living flesh. The runes pulsed brighter as she gripped it, and Maggie felt something surge through her. Not power, hatred, pure, white, hot hatred. She looked up at Graham, at the Nefrithal tear wearing Graham's face, and spoke through her tears. I hate you, she said, her voice shaking with rage. I hate you for what you're making me do. Graham's smile didn't falter. I know, he said simply, but you do it anyway, because that's who you are, Maggie Drake. That's why I chose you. He gestured toward Inez. Now, make your choice final. Wait, he said suddenly, holding up one hand. Actually, I know what your decision is. He waved his hand toward the altar, and the remaining chains, the shackles on Inez's wrist, clicked open. Clang, clang. Both shackles released simultaneously. Inez was completely free now. She could sit up, she could run if she wanted to, but she didn't move. She just lay there on the altar looking at Maggie with tears streaming down her face. It's okay, Inez said softly. I'm ready. Do it. Save them. Maggie stood on shaking legs, the dagger heavy in her hand. She took one step toward the altar, then another. The witches parted slightly, giving her room to move. All of them watching, all of them waiting. Maggie reached the altar and looked down at Inez, her best friend, her sister in everything but blood. A person who had stood by her, had been with her through her marriage, Curly's birth, through moving to Cherry Hill, through everything. I'm sorry. Maggie mouthed silently. No sound, just her lips forming the words. Inez smiled through her tears. I love you, Inez smiled back. Save them. Maggie raised the dagger. Her hand was shaking so badly she could barely hold it. The runes glowed brighter, pulsing in time with her racing heartbeat. Behind her, she heard Graham laugh softly. Heard the witches begin to chant again. Kenna Valmora Shaketh. And in that moment, in that terrible, impossible moment, Inez lay back fully on the altar of her own free will, put her head back, tilted her chin up, exposing her throat, offering herself as a sacrifice. Willing sacrifice for the children who deserved freedom more than she deserved life. Do it, Maggie, she whispered desperately. Quickly. Do it quickly. Maggie's tears fell on Inez's face as she leaned over her. The dagger came down. The blade touched Inez's skin, right against her throat, right over her pulse. Maggie could feel Inez's heartbeat through the blade. Thump, 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 thump. She pressed slightly harder, ready to cut, ready to... No. In one fluid motion, faster than thought, faster than the witches could react, Maggie spun, swirled around in a complete circle, the dagger arcing through the air, and brought the blade across the throat of the black-haired witch who had been standing directly behind her. The witch, the leader, had been so close, her robe touching Maggie's back, her breath on Maggie's neck, right there. The blade cut deep, clean, across the witch's throat from ear to ear. Blood, dark red, almost black, sprayed out into an arc. The witch's eyes went wide with absolute confusion, shock, disbelief. Her hands came up to her throat, trying to hold the wound closed, but the blood gushed between her fingers like a river. She made a sound, a wet, gurgling sound, and then collapsed, fell forward onto the stone floor, still dead. The cavern went silent. Even the bonfires seemed to quiet. Everyone, every witch, every child, even Inez stared in frozen shock. And then Graham's face, the Nafreeth Choltier's face, changed. The pleasant expression, the amused smile, the patient indulgence, all of it vanished, replaced by pure, incandescent fury. His blue eyes blazed, not green, but blue fire, and his voice when he spoke was no longer Graham's warm tone, but something ancient and terrible and absolutely enraged. You dare! Behind him, the bonfire roared higher, casting dancing shadows across the cavern walls. The witches began to chant softly, Kinna Valmora Choketh. Kinna Valmora Choketh. Inez was screaming Maggie's name, pulling against the chains. The children watched with those glowing eyes, silent and hoping. And Maggie knelt on the stone-cold floor and removed the chains from Inez's wrist, staring into Graham's blue eyes, feeling his hands on her, hearing his voice offering her everything and nothing all at once. Everything with Graham had been a lie. He never existed, not the man she'd known, not the person that she trusted, not the comfort that she felt. All of it was the Nefrith Chultir. All of it was him, the god, the monster, the thing that had marked her. And now he was offering her a choice. Say yes and save everyone. Inez, the children, all of them. Say yes and become his bride. Say yes and lose herself completely to him. Or say no. And she had made her choice. The black-haired witch lay on the floor, blood pooling around her body. Everyone was in shock. She saw the fury, heard the fury in Graham's voice. She dropped the dagger, the ancient blade clattering on stone, and lunged. Inez! She screamed. Hold on! Inez barely had time to react before Maggie grabbed her, one arm around her waist, pulling her off the altar. And then Maggie reached for the power inside her. The wind in her bones, the sky that was hers, the gift that Agatha had unlocked. Fly! They shot upward, fast, faster than Maggie had ever flown before. Desperation gave her speed. Terror gave her strength. She clutched Inez's against her bosom with one arm. Her friend's arms wrapped around her neck, holding on for dear life. Maggie! Inez gasped. What are you? Getting us out of here! Maggie shouted over the wind rushing past them. They rocketed toward the ceiling of the massive cavern, toward the darkness above where the bonfire light couldn't reach. If she could just get high enough, if she could just find the opening they'd come through, if she could just get Inez to safety. Below them, chaos erupted. The witches were screaming, moving, breaking out of their shock and coming after her. And the Nefrith Chultir, Graham, his voice roared through the cavern, shaking the stone walls. Seize her! But Maggie was already 50 feet up, 70, 100, flying faster than she'd ever thought possible. Inez's weight pulled at her, made the flight harder, but Maggie didn't care. She would carry her friend out of here, would save her, would get them both to freedom. The ceiling was closer now. She could see the rough stone, the shadowy crevices, the opening, the narrow passage they'd blown through to enter the cavern. Hold on! Maggie shouted to Inez. We're almost... And then a hand from directly behind her, grabbing her. Not her arm or her leg, but her power. Grabbing the very essence of what allowed her to fly, wrapping around it like iron chains and yanking. Maggie's flight stuttered, faltered. Her grip on Inez loosened. No! Maggie screamed, trying to hold on, trying to maintain her grip on both her friend and her power. No! But the force pulling at her was too strong, too ancient, too vast. Her arms slipped. Inez's eyes went wide in terror. Maggie! And then Inez was falling, tumbling through the air, arms flailing, screaming. Inez! Maggie reached for her desperately, trying to dive after her, but that invisible hand held her fast. She watched, helpless, horrified, as Inez fell. Down, down, down into the darkness below, into the shadows where the bonfire's light didn't reach. Maggie couldn't see where she landed. Couldn't hear the impact over the roaring in her ears. Just saw her friend disappear into blackness. Gone. "No," Maggie whispered. "Oh, no." And then she was spinning. That invisible force yanked her around violently, and suddenly she was face to face with him. Then a frightful tear. Graham, hovering in the air beside her, one hand extended toward her, not physically touching, but holding her in place with pure power. And he was laughing. Not angry anymore, but curious, amused, delighted, entertained. "You are quite amusing to me, Kenna," he said. His voice was tight and layered with something ancient and dark. "Did you really think you could fly away from me? That I would just let you leave with her?" He shook his head. "After everything? After I've spent months, years preparing you? After I shaped you into exactly what I needed?" He drifted closer, still holding her suspended in midair with that invisible grip. "Oh, my dear, brave, foolish Kenna. You continue to surprise me. And I do love surprises." Maggie struggled against his hold, trying to break free, trying to dive down to find Inez. "Let me go!" she screamed. "Let me go!" Her voice echoed through the cavern, desperate and raw. But there was no answer from below, just silence, and that terrified Maggie more than anything. Then a frightful tear watched her struggle with that same amused, dark expression. "She's not dead," he said casually, "if that's what you're worried about. My witches caught her before she hit the ground. Can't have your motivation dying before you've made your final choice. Now can we?" Relief and rage roared in Maggie's chest. She knew what he was going to ask of her. "Inez, or the children? Where is she?" Maggie demanded. "What did you do with her?" "She's safe," he said, "for now. Suspended just like you are, waiting, watching." His smile widened, wondering if you're going to save her or doom her. He reached out, and this time he did touch her, his hand cupping her face just like Graham had done a dozen times before. But the touch was wrong now. Cold despite the warmth of his skin, ancient despite the young face. "That was very clever, last, by the way," he said, pretending to choose Inez. "Letting me release her chains, making me think you'd broken." And then he laughed again. "Killing Morgath, my second in command, the witch who served me for 3 centuries. His thumb stroked her cheek. "Bold, vicious, unexpected." His eyes blazed brighter. "I'm impressed, Kenna. Truly. You're everything I hoped you'd be, and more." "Stop calling me that," Maggie spat. "My name is Maggie. Maggie Drake, not Kenna. I am not your bride. I am not. But you are, Kenna. He interrupted softly. You've always been, Kenna, from the moment you were born. He leaned closer, his face inches from her. You are mine, Maggie Drake. You always have been mine. And tonight, right now, you're going to accept that. Below them, the bonfire roared back to life, flames shooting higher than before. The remaining witches had reformed their circle, chanting again, and Maggie saw it. Inez, suspended in the air above the altar, just like he had said, floating, unconscious or paralyzed, Maggie couldn't tell, but alive, for now. So, the Nofrith Chortir said, his voice dropping to that seductive tone. Let's try this again. But this time, his grip on her tightened. No more games. No more tricks. No more defiance. His blue eyes bore into hers. Choose. Now. Right now. Final answer. No take-backs, lass. He gestured down to where Inez floated. Come to me willingly, with complete and total surrender, and I'll let her go. Or I'll let the children go. Everyone. What will your choice be? His other hand came up to frame her face. I warn you, Maggie. You refuse me one more time. His voice turned to ice, and I'll make you watch as I unalive her. Slowly, painfully. And then I'll take the children one by one and do the same. Test me, please. And after all that, after you've watched her die, and all of them, he smiled, you will come to me. But you'll do it broken and shattered and destroyed, a hollow shell of what you could have been. He paused, tilting his head as if listening to something. Oh, he said, and his smile widened. Just to make sure you don't do this again. I wondered if it would be on time or not. This changes everything. He turned, looking toward the north end of the cavern. Maggie's eyes followed his gaze, and she saw it. A figure, flying, coming from the darkness at the far end of the pass, growing closer with each second. Not a witch, not one of his servants. A man, older, gray-haired, wearing a black robe. Her eyes widened. Angus Sinclair, Graham's uncle, the lawyer who'd helped Maggie buy Cherry Hill House, the kind old man who'd seemed trustworthy, flying through the air like it was the most natural thing in the world. And in his arms, Maggie's heart stopped. No! No, 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 no! In Angus' arms was a small figure. A child. With red hair and purple pajamas. Curly, Maggie screamed, her voice raw and desperate. No, not her! Not Curly! She struggled violently against the invisible force holding her, trying to break free, trying to fly to her daughter. But the Nefrith Choltair's power held her fast. Angus flew closer, his expression blank. Not the warm, friendly face that Maggie remembered, but something empty, possessed, controlled. A puppet. And Curly. God. Curly was awake, looking around with the wide, terrified eyes, not understanding where she was or what was happening. Mommy? Curly's small voice echoed through the cavern. Mommy! Where are you? I'm here! Maggie screamed. Baby, I'm here! The Nefrith Choltair raised his hand and pointed at Angus. Oh, look, he said in that amused tone. A happy reunion. He made a gesture, and Curly lifted out of Angus' arms, just floated up like an invisible hand was pulling her. Curly screamed a high, terrified sound that tore through Maggie's soul. Mommy! Mommy, help me! And then Curly was floating, suspended in the air, directly above the bonfire, above those massive flames that reached 30 feet into the air. The heat would be incredible. The terror, absolute. Curly looked down, saw the fire below her, and started crying hysterically. Mommy! Mommy, please, I'm scared. I want to go home. Let her go, you bastard! Maggie was sobbing now, pulling against the force holding her with everything she had. Please! She's just a child. She hasn't done anything. Take me, kill me, just let her go. The Nefrith Choltair rose in the air, slowly, gracefully, until he was floating beside Maggie, looking at her with those blue eyes, Graham's eyes, while her daughter screamed above the fire below them. What will you do now, I wonder? He asked softly. Then he looked at Curly, suspended and crying, and smiled. Such a sweet child. So innocent. So he turned back to Maggie. Breakable? Please, Maggie begged. Please. I'll do anything you want. Just don't hurt her. Please. Anything? He tilted his head. How interesting. Because 5 minutes ago you were willing to die rather than become mine. Now? He gestured to Curly. Now you're begging. How appropriate. His expression shifted, became more serious, more ancient. I worked very hard to get you where you are, Kenna, he said. To become who you are, to break you down, and build you back up into exactly what I needed. He jerked her closer, his face inches from hers. You have the blood of Marcus in you. An Aileen McLeod, light and dark. I had to bring it out of you. But to do that, you had to realize that you had the power. Do you remember the little attack in the car? Cold chills ran down Maggie's spine. The knife to your throat. That was you. Yes. The affair. Coming home and seeing poor James in bed with another woman. I arranged it. Your books, your deal, the fire, all of it has brought you to this point. All of it was mine. All mine. I sent him, I orchestrated the entire thing so that when you were ready to come to Cherry Hill, you would be ripe, broken, shattered. Maggie's mind reeled back. Every moment, he said as he floated closer to her, every tragedy, every heartbreak, the affair, the attack, the fire, the move, meeting me. He leaned closer. I controlled all of it, orchestrated every single piece to bring you here, to break you down, to sharpen you into what I need. Maggie looked up at Curly, still crying above the flames. Her daughter, her everything, the only good thing left in her destroyed life. And even as she watched, Curly's crying intensified. "Mommy," Curly sobbed. But then a free-throat tear laughed. "Oh dear," he said, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "Poor Curly. Yet another thing gone." Maggie looked at him. "What do you mean?" "James. He just passed. In the hospital. Poor, parentless Curly." Maggie froze. "Yes. Just died. Just now. Just a little twitch of my finger. But you put him there with your thought. The world stopped. So now, what will you do?" He had taken everything from Maggie. He wanted her to have nothing. All she had left was Curly. And now he had Curly suspended above the flames. "Why?" Maggie choked out. "Why do all of this? Why take so much from me?" "Because I need you," he said simply. "Your power, your strength, your potential. You're marked as mine, Kenna. You've always been marked. I've waited centuries for you, and I'm not willing to wait another moment." He gestured to the cavern around them. "I need you by my side. Need your power combined with mine. Need you to rule this realm with me. Not because I love you. I don't. He laughed at the very idea that because you are what I require, what I've been waiting for, the perfect vessel, the perfect witch, the perfect. He paused, looking at her with those blue eyes. Weapon. Maggie stared at him. He didn't even care about love. He just wanted her power, wanted to use her, wanted her as a tool, a weapon. That was all she was to him, all that she'd ever been. So, he said, his voice hardening, his hands gripping her face harder. Choose. Right now. This is your last chance. Say yes. Agree to be mine. Come to my side willingly and bind yourself to me forever. He glanced down at Curly. And I'll spare her. I'll let her go. I'll let Inez go. Everyone walks free. His thumb wiped away one of her tears. Or say no. He held up his hand, fingers poised, and I let her fall right into those flames. You don't want to watch your daughter burn, do you? To hear the agony as the flames lick up her body. To know that you spent eternity knowing you could have saved her and chose not to. Maggie looked at Curly, at her daughter suspended in the air, crying hysterically, pleading for help, at Inez floating unconscious above the altar, at the hundreds of children chained to the walls, watching with their glowing eyes, at the monster beside her who had destroyed her entire life just to bring her to this moment. He'd orchestrated everything. The affair, the attack, the fire, the move to Cherry Hill, all of it. And now he had Curly. And Maggie. Maggie was completely, utterly shattered. Broken beyond repair. There was no fight left. No defiance. No hope. He held the winning hand. Just a mother looking at her child about to die, and a God offering the only deal that would save her. She couldn't say no. If she said no, Curly would die. And Maggie wouldn't let that happen. Not to her daughter, not to her everything, even if it meant losing herself forever, even if it meant becoming his weapon, even if it meant an eternity of serving the monster who had destroyed her life. Choose, Kenna. He whispered, say the words. Say yes. Say you are mine. Do it now, or watch her burn. Curly screamed above the flames. Inez floated unconscious. The children watched, and Maggie Drake, broken, shattered, destroyed, had to choose. The cavern held its breath. Inez floated unconscious above the altar. The children watched. Maggie hung suspended in the air, staring at her daughter. Curly floated above the bonfire, crying hysterically, calling for her mommy. Inez floated unconscious above the altar. And beside Maggie, in a free tear, Graham waited, his hand poised, ready to drop Curly into the flames, ready to end her daughter's life, and Maggie said no. That was it. The ultimate choice. The end of everything. Watch her daughter burn alive, or become his bride, his weapon, his queen of darkness, forever. Maggie looked at Graham, at those blue eyes that had lied to her, at that face that she trusted, at the God who had destroyed her entire life just to bring her to this moment. There was resignation in her voice when she spoke. You will let her go. Promise me. Yes. Let Inez go. I need to talk to her. Please. Graham tilted his head, studying her, and then he smiled. Of course, he said, and his tone was almost gentle, almost kind. Say your goodbyes. Do one thing wrong, and she dies. He moved aside, gesturing to where Inez floated, and Maggie drifted forward, toward her best friend, toward her sister. The person who had been with her through everything. As Maggie approached, Inez's eyes fluttered open, the paralysis holding her eased enough for her to turn her head, to focus on Maggie floating beside her. Maggie. Inez's voice was weak, confused. What's happening? He has Curly. She's here, Maggie said, and her voice broke. She's here above the fire. Inez's eyes went wide with horror. No. No, Inez breathed. No, Maggie, you can't. You can't give in to him. You can't let him. I don't have a choice. Maggie interrupted, tears streaming down her face. Nez, I don't have a choice. If I say no, he drops her. He burns her alive, and I can't. I won't let that happen. She reached out and took Inez's hand. So I need you to listen to me. I need you to promise me something. Maggie, no! Listen! Maggie's voice cracked with desperation. Please, just listen. Inez went silent, tears filling her own eyes. Maggie squeezed her hand tighter. I want you to take Curly, she said. When he lets you go, when this is over, I want you to take her and leave this place. Leave Cherry Hill. Leave these mountains. Get as far away from here as you possibly can. Maggie! And never come back, Inez. If you do, I'll know. Don't ever come looking for me. Don't search for me. Just take her and go. And her voice broke completely. And don't let her forget me. Inez was sobbing now. I can't, she said. Maggie, I can't just leave you here. I can't take Curly and pretend like you don't exist. I can't. You have to, Maggie said fiercely. Because if you don't, he'll use you against me. He'll use both of you against me. And I need to know. I need to know that she's safe. That she's away from him. That she's with someone who loves her. She pulled Inez closer, their faces inches apart. Promise me, Maggie whispered. Promise me you'll take her. Promise me you'll raise her as your own. Promise me you'll tell her about me. About who I was before this, how much I loved her. About how I would do anything, even surrender to the darkness for her. To keep her safe. Maggie, promise me, Inez. Promise me! Inez was shaking violently, tears pouring down her face. I promise. She choked out. I promise, Maggie, I'll take her. I'll raise her. I'll love her like she's my own. I'll tell her about you every day. I'll make sure she knows about you. Her voice dissolved into sobs. I'll make sure she knows how much you loved her. Maggie closed her eyes, relief and agony warring in her chest. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Nez, for everything. For being my friend, my sister. She couldn't finish. Just squeezed Inez's hand one more time, then let go. And turned away, floating back toward Graham, toward the Nefrith Cholter, toward the God who would own her for eternity. He was waiting, that same patient smile on his face. But Maggie didn't look at his face. She looked at Curly, still suspended above the flames, still crying. Then she looked back at Graham. And when she spoke, her voice wasn't broken anymore. It was still. It was rage. It was a mother's fury wrapped in absolute certainty. You will let them go, she said. Not a question, a command. You will bring no harm to Inez or to my daughter. You will release them from this place, and you will never, never touch them again. She floated closer, her eyes boring into his. I will hate you with my every breath. Know this. You will do this, she screamed. Do you understand me? Graham's smile widened. I understand, he said softly. You have my word, Kenna. Your friend and your daughter will walk out of this pass unharmed, and I will never lay a hand on either of them. He tilted his head. As long as you come to me willingly, and if you try to turn at any point, I will take her. As long as you bind yourself to me, as long as you become mine. Maggie stared at him, at the monster wearing Graham's face, at the god who had destroyed her life. And she had no choice. She had to trust him. Had to trust that he would keep his word. Had to trust that when she said yes, he would actually let them go. Because she had no other choice, no other option, no other way to save Curly. Then I agree, Maggie said, and each word felt like swallowing glass. I will be yours. I will bind myself to you. I will. She couldn't say more, couldn't force out the words, but Graham understood. He smiled triumph, victorious, satisfied, and raised his hand. Curly began to descend, slowly, carefully, away from the flames, down toward where Inez still floated. Mommy! Curly screamed when she saw Maggie. Mommy, help me! I am, baby. I am helping you. Damn you. You're safe now. You're going to be safe. Curly reached Inez, and Inez's arms wrapped around her immediately, pulling the child against her chest. I've got her! Inez called to Maggie. She's safe! The paralysis holding Inez released completely. She could move now, could stand. But Maggie saw it immediately. How was she going to get out of this place? With her. The only way out of the Black Pass was up, through that narrow passage they'd flown through to enter. Maggie looked at Graham with hot tears. She can't fly, Maggie said. They have no way to leave. She stopped, hating what she had to ask. You need to make a path for them to leave safely. Graham studied her for a moment, then smiled. Of course. Kenna. He raised his hand, and the stone floor of the cavern began to shift. A path formed, rising from the ground, spiraling upward along the cavern wall, like a staircase carved from the mountain itself, leading up toward the opening, toward freedom. There, Graham said, the way out, lass. She has 10 minutes before it disappears and crumbles to the ground. Maggie nodded, then looked at Inez. Wait, she called. Please, just wait. And she flew down to where Inez stood on the cavern floor, holding Curly. Maggie landed in front of them, and Curly immediately reached for her. Mommy! Mommy, I want to go home! I'm scared! Maggie pulled her daughter into her arms, holding her tight, breathing in the scent of her hair. Her baby. Her everything. I know you're scared, sweetheart. Maggie whispered, tears streaming down her face. I know. But Aunt Nez is going to take you somewhere safe, somewhere far from here. I want you to come too, Curly sobbed against her shoulder. I want you to come with us, Mommy, please. Come with us. Maggie's heart shattered into a million pieces. I can't, baby, she said, pulling back to look at Curly's face to memorize every detail. The curls, the day she was born, the smell of her skin. I can't come with you, but I need you to be brave for me. Can you be brave? Can you be brave for me? Curly's lips trembled. I don't want to be brave. I want you. I know. Maggie kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her nose. I know, baby, but sometimes being brave means doing hard things. And right now, I need you to go with Aunt Naz and be safe. Can you do that for me? Curly was crying too hard to answer, just clung to Maggie's neck. Maggie held her for another moment, one more precious moment, then gently, so gently, transferred her back to Inez's arms. I love you, Maggie said, looking into her daughter's eyes. I love you so much, Curly, more than anything in the whole world. And I need you to remember that. Even when the darkness creeps in, no matter what happens, no matter what anyone tells you about your mother, what I did today, I did for you. Remember that. I love you too, Mommy, Curly sobbed. Maggie turned to Inez, whose face was wet with tears. Go, Maggie said, now, before I change my mind. Inez nodded, clutching Curly tighter. I will never let her forget you, Maggie, Inez said, her voice fierce despite the tears. I swear it, Maggie. Maggie nodded, unable to speak. Just watched as Inez turned and ran for the stone staircase, watched as they began to climb. Inez carrying Curly, moving as fast as she could, watched as Curly looked back over Inez's shoulder, reaching for Maggie, crying. She watched until they disappeared in the darkness of the passage, until they were gone, safe, free, and Maggie was alone. She turned back to face Graham, to face the altar, to face her fate. He was floating above the bonfire, waiting for her with that satisfied smile. Come, Kenna, he said, holding out his hand. It's time. Maggie began to fly toward him. But as she passed over the cave floor, she heard them, the children, the hundreds of children still chained to the walls. They were crying, not loudly, not screaming, but softly, desperately, hopeless, because their one chance, their Maggie, was leaving them, was becoming his bride and abandoning them to eternal darkness. Please, one small voice called out. Please don't leave us. Don't forget us. Another whispered. Save us. A third begged, their voices layered over each other. Hundreds of children pleading, crying, hoping against hope that Maggie would turn back, would save them, would set them free. But Maggie kept flying toward Graham, toward the altar, toward her destiny. She couldn't save them. She could only save Curly. Could only make that one choice. And now they would stay here forever because of her. Maggie landed on the altar, the massive black stone carved with terrible symbols. Graham descended to stand beside her, taking her hand. Are you ready, lass? Maggie looked at him, at the god who had destroyed her life, who had taken everything from her, who was about to take her soul. And she said the only thing she could say. Yes. Graham's smile widened. He raised his free hand, and the cavern exploded with power. The bonfire roared higher than ever. The witches' chanting reached a fever pitch. Graham's smile widened. He raised his free hand, and the cavern exploded with power. The bonfire roared higher than ever. The witches' chanting reached a fever pitch. The very air crackled with dark energy. And Graham spoke. Not in Graham's voice anymore, but in that ancient layered voice that shook the stone walls. Kenna McLeod, marked bride of the Nefrith Chultair, do you come to me willingly? Do you bind yourself to me of your own free will? Do you surrender yourself, body, soul, and power to me? Maggie felt something pulling at her, deep inside of her. Her humanity, herself, everything that made her Maggie Drake, being drawn out, peeled away, offered up to him. Yes, she said, and her voice did not sound like her own anymore. I come willingly to you. I bind myself to you. I surrender everything to you. The altar beneath her began to glow, the symbols pulsing with the light. Graham placed his other hand on her chest, directly over the signet seal that had marked her, and the transformation began. Maggie felt it, felt the darkness pouring into her, felt her humanity burning away like paper in fire, felt everything she'd been disappearing. Maggie the mother, Maggie the friend, Maggie the woman who'd fought hard to stay herself. All of it. Gone. Consumed. Replaced by something else, something ancient, something powerful, something dark. Kenna. Not Maggie anymore, but Kenna McLeod, bride of the Nefrith Chultair, queen of the Black Pass. The transformation completed, and Maggie, no, Kenna, opened her eyes, and they were no longer green. They glowed now, a faint greenish light emanating from within, just like his eyes, just like the children's eyes. The mark of the black past, the mark of belonging to him. Graham smiled, triumphant, satisfied, victorious. Welcome, my queen. And Kenna looked at him with those glowing eyes and felt nothing. No anger, no grief, no loss, just acceptance, power, belonging. She was his now, completely, eternally. Graham took her hand and began to lead her away from the altar, away from the bonfire, toward the back of the cavern. Where the veil was the thinnest, where they would cross over into his realm fully. Kenna floated beside him without resistance, past the fire, past the altar, past the chained children who watched with their glowing eyes, some still crying, some silent with despair, into the darkness, into the veil. And as she crossed that threshold, as she left the physical world behind and entered the realm of shadow and spirit, Kenna McLeod smiled. A cold, terrible smile. The smile of someone who had surrendered completely to darkness. Someone who had chosen power over love. Someone who had lost everything for love. Forever. Epilogue. Inez stumbled down the stone staircase, clutching Curly against her chest. The child had cried herself into exhaustion and now hung limp in Inez's arms, occasionally whimpering for her mother. The stairs seemed to go on forever, spiraling up and up through darkness until finally, blessedly, Inez saw light ahead. The opening, the way out. She burst through into the cool night air, into the forest, into freedom, and kept walking down the mountain, through the trees, her legs screaming with exhaustion, her arms aching from carrying Curly's weight. But she didn't stop, couldn't stop, had to get as far from the Black Pass as possible. Eventually, the forest gave way to dirt road, and then pavement, and then headlights. A car coming toward her. Inez stood in the middle of the road holding Curly, and the car screeched to a stop. An older man got out, someone that Inez didn't recognize. His eyes went wide when he saw her. "Ma'am, are you all right? What happened?" "Please," Inez said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please, I need to get to Cherry Hill House. Can you take us there?" The man looked at her torn clothes, at the sleeping child in her arms, at the desperate terror in her eyes, and nodded. "Yeah, get in. I'll take you." 20 minutes later, he dropped them off at Cherry Hill House, the beautiful Victorian that Maggie had loved, that had been her fresh start, her dream home, now empty and dark and abandoned. Inez got Curly inside and locked the doors and collapsed on the floor in the foyer and cried for her best friend, for Maggie, for the woman who had sacrificed everything to save her daughter, the woman who was gone forever. And then she heard something, scratching. She wiped her tears away. Curly rose from her lap. The scratching was loud. They followed it to a small alcove under the stairs. She opened the door, and Dune bounded out. He flew into Curly's arms, and Curly grabbed him and held on to him as tightly as she could. 3 months later, Charleston, South Carolina. Inez woke to screaming, high-pitched, terrified, a child's scream that tore through the quiet Saturday morning like a knife. "Curly!" Inez threw off her covers and ran down the hall of her apartment, the place that she'd fled to after leaving Cherry Hill, the place that was supposed to be safe, and burst into Curly's bedroom. The little girl was sitting up in bed, her heart pounding, her eyes wide and glassy, staring at something that Inez couldn't see. "I'm here," Inez said, rushing to her side. "I'm here, baby. What's wrong? What happened?" Curly turned to look at her, and Inez's blood ran cold. The child's eyes were different, distant, haunted. Dune was lying beside her, growling, his eyes amber in the dark. "I saw Mommy," Curly whispered. Inez's breath stopped. "What?" "I saw her," Curly said, her voice trembling. "In my dream, she was reaching out for me. She wanted me to come to her." Tears started streaming down the child's face. "But her eyes were wrong, Inez. They were glowing green, like icky. And she was smiling, but it wasn't her smile. It was..." Curly started sobbing. "It was scary." Inez pulled Curly to her arms, holding her tight, her own heart pounding. "No. Please, no." But she knew, deep down she knew. Kenna was dark now. She was reaching out through the veil, through dreams, trying to pull Curly back. Because Kenna, whatever Maggie had become, hadn't forgotten. And she wanted her daughter. Inez had been keeping tabs on Cherry Hill, quietly, secretly. Another week passed. She set up Google alerts for the town, joined local Facebook groups under a fake name, called the sheriff's office, pretending to be a journalist researching mountain towns, reached out to Billy Greyfeather and Chloe. Anything to know what was happening there, what he was doing, what she was doing. And 3 days ago, Inez had seen a text from Chloe. It was a article in the old newspaper. Child missing from Cherry Hill. First disappearance this year. Inez had read it with shaking hands. A 7-year-old boy vanished from his backyard. No signs of struggle, no witnesses, no leads. Just gone, like all the others before him. The article mentioned the local legend, the Black Pass, the stories of children disappearing for centuries. But what made Inez's blood turn to ice was a detail that Chloe texted her. A witness reported seeing a beautiful woman with red hair in dark clothing hovering in the sky near the woods the night that the boy vanished. A woman with strange eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. The witness had tried to approach her to ask if she needed help, but the woman had smiled, a cold, terrible smile, and disappeared into the trees, like she'd never been there at all. Inez had stared at that text for hours. A woman with glowing eyes. A woman who disappeared into the trees near the Black Pass. A woman with red hair. A woman who smiled a cold, terrible smile. And all her hopes were dashed. It was Kenna. Not the friend who had been kind and loving and good, but Kenna McLeod, the Black Witch, the most powerful witch in the Black Pass, the one that was linked to the Nefrith Choltir, the one who was now helping him take children. Maggie, the woman who had sacrificed everything to save her daughter, to save the children, was now taking them, was one of them. The darkness hadn't just claimed her, it had changed her, made her into exactly what she'd fought against, a monster. Inez waited until Curly fell back asleep and thought about the promise that she had made to Maggie. The promise had been to Maggie, not to this thing. The one she'd made that night. And then something rose up inside of her. I will free those children. But how? How could she fight? How could she fight Kenna, a witch more powerful than any that Inez had ever been known to? How could she save the children when their only hope had become the greatest threat? Inez didn't know. But as she watched the sun rise over Charleston, as she heard Curly whimper in her sleep, she made a new promise. She would find a way. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what I have to do. I will stop you, Kenna. I will stop them. And I will save those children. I will be ready. The war wasn't over. It had just begun. And this time, the monster wasn't hiding in the Black Pass. The monster was Maggie Drake. In the Black Pass, Kenna McLeod walked through darkness. Her eyes glowed green in the shadows. Her power crackled around like lightning. And beside her, the Nefrith Choltir smiled. You've done well, my love. He said, the boy is secure. The collection grows. Kenna smiled, that cold, terrible smile. There will be more, she said, in a voice that was no longer Maggie's warm tone. It was layered and ancient and dark. So many more. She looked up at the cavern walls where hundreds of children hung in chains, where their glowing eyes watched her, where they whispered her name in fear. Kenna, Kenna, Kenna. And she felt nothing. No guilt, no remorse, no memory of who she'd been. Just power, just hunger, just darkness. Maggie Drake was dead. The woman who had loved her daughter. The woman who had fought for good. The woman who had sacrificed herself to save the innocent. Dead. And in her place stood Kenna McLeod, witch, hunter, monster, the most dangerous thing in the Black Pass, because she had chosen this, had surrendered completely, had embraced the darkness with open arms, and now she would help him take the children, would help him feed, would help him grow stronger, because that's what she was now. Evil. Pure. Absolute. Evil. And somewhere in Charleston, a child dreamed of her mother reaching for her with glowing eyes. And an aunt made promises she didn't know if she could keep. And the darkness laughed because it had won. Completely. Utterly. Forever. And that is the end of Cherry Hill. Stay tuned for book 2. I hope that you have enjoyed listening to this as much as I enjoyed writing it. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Palm. Thank you for the manifesting ball. That was beautiful. You are most welcome, Alicia. There is going to be a book 2. Give me time. I am going to take a break and just let my mind just kind of process everything, and then I'll start writing. And when I have a good amount of it written, I will start that. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, The Rose. Thank you so much. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. You're welcome, Shirley. I'm so glad that you all enjoyed it. Thank you. You're welcome, Rotting Savior. All right. I made it. Thank you for the fireworks. Thank you. You're welcome, X. Thank you, Mia. Amy, thank you for the fireworks. They were lovely. Thank you so much. You're welcome, Jackie. Thank you. You're welcome, Pink. There's no way that we can end the story there, is it? All right. Bye, everyone in the Wyatt channel.